Have you ever found yourself trapped in an endless cycle of being busy yet never truly productive? You're juggling tasks, responsibilities, and priorities, but somehow the meaningful results you crave remain just out of reach. If you've ever ended your day exhausted, wondering if any of it actually mattered, you're not alone. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your problem isn't a lack of effort or ambition, it's a lack of clarity. The kind of clarity that cuts through the chaos, showing you exactly what actions will generate real results. The kind of clarity that elite professionals quietly use to outdecide, outperform, and out-earn their competition. This book, Priority Design Secrets, Turn Chaos into a One-Page Action Plan, is not about adding yet another complicated system to your overloaded schedule. Instead, it offers you a deceptively simple, yet profoundly powerful approach to designing your days, weeks, and even your year in a way that instantly clarifies what's truly important and what can safely wait. Imagine trading overwhelm and mental clutter for a calm, laser-focused action plan that fits neatly onto a single page. Picture waking up each day knowing precisely what tasks will actually move you forward, confident that every minute you spend is driving tangible progress. In the chapters ahead, you'll discover exactly how to achieve this clarity. Step by step, we'll transform your scattered priorities into streamlined focus, showing you how to filter out the noise, quickly identify your most important tasks, and protect your time like never before. If you've ever wondered how top performers seem to effortlessly execute their goals while everyone else spins in circles, you're about to unlock their secret. But here's the challenge. Clarity won't find you. You have to choose it. So if you're ready to escape the hamster wheel, eliminate decision fatigue, and finally achieve the meaningful results your hard work deserves, simply keep reading. Together, we're about to turn your chaos into a one-page action plan that changes everything. Chapter 1: Clarity Lens. Have you ever wondered why some days feel like a relentless hamster wheel, filled with endless tasks, yet leaving you with a sinking suspicion that you've accomplished nothing meaningful? Imagine instead having absolute clarity about what deserves your attention, knowing precisely which actions will generate outsized results. That kind of clarity is not just a productivity dream, it's entirely achievable through a single, transformative approach: the clarity lens. In today's hyper-connected world, every notification, every email, and every new opportunity feels urgent. The real challenge is distinguishing what truly matters from what merely shouts loudest. What you need isn't just a to-do list, but a clear and compelling North Star objective, a singular, unwavering goal that brings coherence to all your actions. This is more than mere goal setting. It's crafting a powerful focal point that simplifies every subsequent decision, freeing your mental bandwidth to execute rather than agonize. But why is this singular North Star so effective? Think of it as the gravitational force of your productivity universe, constantly pulling your scattered tasks into alignment. Without a crystal clear aim, you risk spinning in place, making decisions based on immediate pressures instead of lasting value. A North Star objective doesn't just simplify choices, it fundamentally shifts your decision-making from reactive firefighting to strategic execution, ensuring your energy always flows towards impactful outcomes. Yet a powerful North Star isn't vague or abstract, it's razor-sharp and quantifiable. Ambiguity is the enemy of clarity. Therefore, your primary goal must translate into concrete targets. Imagine converting lofty visions into measurable outcomes, making each step forward tangible. By creating these crisp, quantifiable targets, called key results, you establish clear markers for progress, turning vague ambitions into precise metrics. This clarity not only motivates, but holds you accountable in ways vague intentions simply cannot. Here's where Pareto's celebrated 80-20 principle elegantly dovetails with your North Star approach. At its core, Pareto's insight reveals that a small fraction of activities generates the lion's share of outcomes. Imagine identifying exactly which actions fall into that powerful 20%, those pivotal levers driving 80% of your desired results. By applying Pareto strategically, you streamline your focus onto those tasks which amplify productivity exponentially. Suddenly, the endless busy work that once cluttered your days fades into insignificance, replaced by activities offering real leverage. The secret to maintaining this disciplined focus lies in a simple but powerful system known as objectives and key results, OKRs. OKRs are not merely goals, they're structured commitments to action. A robust objective energizes you. It's aspirational yet attainable, a bold target that compels action. Complementing this objective are your key results, the measurable markers tracking real movement, not the illusion of busyness. These key results become your compass, revealing not only progress, but also highlighting areas that demand recalibration. Crafting compelling OKRs begins by setting a vivid annual vision, a broad horizon that excites and aligns. Break this ambitious vision into quarterly OKRs, manageable yet still significant chunks of progress. Then, sharpen your execution further with weekly check-ins, creating immediate feedback loops that keep you aligned and agile. This rhythm ensures your North Star objective remains relevant and compelling, continually recalibrating based on real-time progress, not outdated assumptions. Yet even the best frameworks falter without frequent reality checks. It's dangerously easy to drift into vanity metrics, those seductive numbers that look good but don't genuinely move the needle. Guard against this pitfall with periodic audits, ruthlessly examining whether each task genuinely aligns with your North Star. Question constantly, does this activity significantly move me toward my primary objective, or is it merely noise masquerading as progress? To visualize your clarity in practice, consider crafting a strategy map, a single, streamlined visual connecting your North Star objective directly down through every level, organizational, team, personal. Imagine this as a simple yet powerful pyramid, instantly conveying your strategic priorities in a glance. With this map in front of you, alignment across tasks, teams, and broader goals becomes intuitive, not complex. It's your visual anchor, reinforcing clarity each time you glance its way. Yet clarity demands reflection. Regularly ask yourself penetrating questions like, if I could ship only one outcome this quarter, what would yield the greatest impact? And which single metric makes everything else easier or even unnecessary? These reflection prompts aren't mere exercises. They're surgical strikes cutting straight through confusion, continually reaffirming your clarity. They help ensure your North Star isn't merely decorative, but profoundly strategic. However, beware the temptation to overload your focus with too many objectives. Clarity thrives on simplicity, and the moment your goal setting bloats, your clarity dissolves. A compact list, one bold objective supported by just a few clear key results, outperforms sprawling task lists every time. Protect your clarity ruthlessly. An overstuffed objective list is merely noise with ambition. Finally, sustain your newfound clarity by embedding practical rituals into your routine. Consider a brief 5-minute OKR review every Friday afternoon, a quick yet powerful habit keeping your focus sharp. Pair this with visible scoreboards, instantly reflecting your progress. Immediate visual feedback fuels motivation and continually reinforces your strategic direction. As you embrace the clarity lens, the chaos of competing demands begins to fade, replaced by a crisp sense of purpose. Yet clarity alone won't banish all overwhelm. Without a powerful method to filter the relentless influx of tasks, your newfound clarity risks drowning beneath the weight of mental clutter. There's one critical skill you'll need next, one that promises to free your mind from the constant hum of unfinished business and unleash your cognitive firepower. That skill awaits in the next chapter, where you'll discover how to harness the chaos filter. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Grow to the Top and activate notifications to receive more self-improvement tips that will supercharge your growth. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2, Chaos Filter. Picture this. You're sitting at your desk, supposedly focused on an important project, but your mind keeps ping-ponging between a dozen different concerns. There's that email you need to send, the meeting you should schedule, the report that's overdue, and somewhere in the back of your mind, a nagging feeling that you're forgetting something crucial. Sound familiar? What you're experiencing isn't a lack of focus. It's the devastating effect of mental clutter on your cognitive machinery. Your brain, for all its remarkable capabilities, has a dirty secret. It's terrible at holding multiple unfinished tasks simultaneously. Every uncaptured commitment, every half-remembered obligation, every I should probably thought creates what researchers call an open loop, a mental thread that continues consuming precious cognitive resources until it's properly closed. These loops don't just distract you, they actively sabotage your ability to think clearly, make decisions, and execute with precision. The science behind this phenomenon is both fascinating and alarming. When your working memory becomes cluttered with unprocessed information, your decision-making quality can plummet by as much as 70%. Think about that for a moment. Nearly 3/4 of your cognitive horsepower gets hijacked by mental noise. It's like trying to run high-performance software on a computer that's simultaneously running dozens of background programs. Everything slows down, crashes become frequent, and peak performance becomes impossible. But here's where the chaos filter enters the picture, offering a remarkably elegant solution to this cognitive overload. The filter isn't some complex system requiring extensive training or expensive software. Instead, it's a deceptively simple approach that transforms how you handle the constant influx of tasks, ideas, and commitments that bombard your consciousness throughout each day. The foundation of any effective chaos filter lies in understanding a fundamental principle. Your mind should be used for thinking, not for storage. Every time you try to remember something while simultaneously working on something else, you're essentially asking your brain to perform two incompatible functions. It's like expecting a race car driver to navigate a complex course while also serving as the pit crew radio operator. The results are predictably suboptimal. This is where the magic of external capture becomes transformative. By creating reliable systems to catch and hold every incoming task or idea, you free your mind from its storage burden, allowing it to focus entirely on analysis, creativity, and execution. The relief is often immediate and profound, like finally setting down a heavy backpack you didn't realize was weighing you down. The most effective approach involves establishing 3 distinct capture points, each designed for different types of incoming information. Think of these as specialized nets, each optimized to catch specific kinds of mental debris before it can accumulate in your consciousness. The beauty lies not in the sophistication of these tools, but in their reliability and accessibility. Your first capture point handles the physical world, those papers, business cards, and tangible items that cross your path. Rather than letting these accumulate in random piles, they flow into a single, designated collection point. Your second capture point manages the digital realm, emails, messages, and electronic documents that would otherwise scatter across multiple platforms. The third serves as your rapid response system for those fleeting thoughts and sudden insights that strike at inconvenient moments. The key to making this system work lies in a simple but non-negotiable rule. Every capture point must be emptied within 24 hours. This isn't about immediate action on every item, it's about ensuring nothing gets lost in the system. Think of it as preventing cognitive constipation. Regular clearing keeps the flow moving and maintains the system's integrity. Once captured, each item requires a moment of clarity. This is where many people stumble, but the process is surprisingly straightforward. Every captured item falls into one of 3 categories: actionable tasks that require your attention, reference material you might need later, or noise that can be immediately discarded. This simple triage prevents the accumulation of mental junk while ensuring important items receive appropriate treatment. The actionable items then flow into one of 3 destinations based on their nature and timing. Quick tasks that take less than 2 minutes get handled immediately. The overhead of tracking them exceeds the effort required to complete them. Larger tasks migrate to your project tracking system, while items requiring future attention move to your calendar or reminder system. What makes this approach so powerful isn't the specific tools you use, but the consistency of the process. Whether you prefer digital systems or analog methods matters far less than ensuring every loop gets captured and properly processed. The goal is creating a trusted system that your mind can rely on completely, knowing that nothing important will slip through the cracks. Many people sabotage their own systems by constantly switching tools or endlessly reorganizing their capture methods. This tool hopping creates exactly the kind of cognitive overhead the system is designed to eliminate. The most effective chaos filter often consists of nothing more than a simple notebook, a reliable inbox, and a calendar you actually use. The transformation that occurs when you implement an effective chaos filter extends far beyond simple organization. Your decision-making becomes sharper, your focus deepens, and that constant background anxiety about forgotten tasks simply evaporates. You begin operating from a place of calm confidence rather than reactive stress. Yet even the most sophisticated chaos filter has its limitations. While it brilliantly handles the capture and organization of tasks, it doesn't address the crucial question of which tasks deserve your attention in the first place. There's a powerful decision-making framework that can slice through your organized task list with surgical precision, instantly revealing which items deserve immediate action and which can safely wait. This framework operates on a principle so simple yet profound that it can revolutionize how you approach every decision in your professional life. Chapter 3, Quick Sort. You've captured everything swirling in your mind and organized it into a pristine system, but now you face a new challenge. Staring at a list of 37 tasks, all seemingly demanding your immediate attention. Which one deserves your focus first? Which can wait until next week? And how do you make these decisions without spending more time deliberating than actually executing? The answer lies in mastering what might be the most powerful decision-making tool ever developed for knowledge workers. It's elegantly simple, devastatingly effective, and can transform your entire approach to productivity in less than 60 seconds. Yet most people either don't know it exists or use it incorrectly, missing its profound impact on their professional effectiveness. This tool operates on a single, penetrating question that cuts through confusion like a laser through fog. But before we reveal that question, consider how most people approach their task lists. They scan through items, feeling overwhelmed by the sheer volume, then typically default to one of several flawed strategies: tackling the easiest tasks first, responding to whoever shouted loudest, or simply working on whatever feels most appealing in the moment. Each of these approaches shares a fatal flaw. They're reactive rather than strategic. They treat all tasks as roughly equivalent, failing to recognize that some activities generate exponentially more value than others. It's like treating a diamond and a piece of glass as equally valuable simply because they both sparkle. The breakthrough comes when you realize that every task in your universe can be precisely categorized using just 2 dimensions. These dimensions create a simple grid that instantly reveals the true nature of any activity, cutting through the noise to expose what really matters. The first dimension measures how quickly something demands attention, its urgency. The second measures how significantly it impacts your objectives, its importance. Here's where most people stumble. They assume urgent and important are synonymous. This confusion creates a productivity trap that keeps high achievers spinning their wheels, constantly busy but rarely advancing toward their most significant goals. The truth is more nuanced and far more powerful. Urgency screams for attention. It's the ringing phone, the approaching deadline, the crisis demanding immediate response. Urgency creates pressure, stress, and the illusion that immediate action equals productivity. But urgency alone tells you nothing about whether the task actually matters. Importance, by contrast, whispers. It rarely demands immediate attention, but quietly builds the foundation for everything meaningful in your professional life. Important tasks are those that directly advance your North Star objectives, strengthen your capabilities, or prevent future problems. They're often the activities you know you should be doing, but somehow never find time for. When you map these 2 dimensions against each other, 4 distinct quadrants emerge, each with its own characteristics and strategic implications. Understanding these quadrants transforms how you approach every decision about where to invest your time and energy. The first quadrant contains tasks that are both urgent and important, genuine crises that demand immediate attention. These are the fires you must fight, the emergencies you cannot ignore. While necessary, living primarily in this quadrant creates a reactive, stressful existence where you're constantly responding to problems rather than preventing them. The second quadrant holds the secret to exceptional performance, tasks that are important but not urgent. This is where strategic planning happens, where relationships are built, where skills are developed, and where systems are created to prevent future crises. Research shows that professionals who spend at least 65% of their time in this quadrant complete 40% more strategic projects than their peers. Yet this quadrant receives the least attention because it doesn't scream for immediate action. The third quadrant creates the most insidious trap, tasks that feel urgent but aren't actually important. These activities create the illusion of productivity while contributing little to your meaningful objectives. They're often other people's priorities masquerading as your own. The meeting that could have been an email, the report nobody will read, the task that feels important simply because someone else labeled it urgent. The fourth quadrant represents pure waste, activities that are neither urgent nor important. These are the time sinks that drain energy without contributing value, mindless social media scrolling during work hours, excessive email checking, or engaging in office gossip. While everyone needs some downtime, spending significant work hours in this quadrant is simply self-sabotage. The power of this framework lies not just in understanding these quadrants, but in developing the discipline to make rapid sorting decisions. When faced with any task, you can now ask the penetrating question that cuts through confusion. Is this urgent, important, both, or neither? This simple question enables 30-second decision-making. You no longer need to agonize over priorities or feel guilty about what you're not doing. Each task gets tagged and routed to its appropriate quadrant, creating clarity about what deserves immediate attention, what should be scheduled for focused work sessions, what can be delegated or eliminated, and what should be avoided entirely. The real transformation occurs when you begin protecting your second quadrant time with the same intensity you'd protect a crucial client meeting. This means calendar blocking dedicated periods for important but non-urgent work, creating email filters that automatically route third quadrant noise away from your primary inbox, and developing the confidence to say no to urgent requests that don't align with your important objectives. Yet even this powerful sorting mechanism has its limitations. While it brilliantly categorizes tasks by urgency and importance, it doesn't help you choose between multiple important activities competing for your attention. When you have several high-impact projects demanding focus, you need a more sophisticated approach, one that can transform gut feelings into precise, comparable scores. Chapter 4, Score Smart. Imagine you're standing in front of a whiteboard covered with 10 promising project ideas, each one potentially game-changing for your career or business. Your gut tells you they're all important. Your colleagues have passionate opinions about their favorites, and you have limited resources to pursue maybe 3 of them. How do you choose? How do you move beyond subjective hunches and political preferences to make decisions that actually maximize your return on investment? Most professionals rely on intuition for these critical choices, trusting their experience and instincts to guide them toward the right priorities. While intuition has its place, it's also remarkably vulnerable to cognitive biases that can lead even seasoned executives astray. We tend to favor projects that are easier to visualize, overestimate our ability to execute complex initiatives, and unconsciously gravitate toward options that confirm our existing beliefs. The solution lies in transforming these fuzzy subjective assessments into precise, comparable numbers. This isn't about replacing human judgment with cold calculation. It's about creating a framework that amplifies your best thinking while protecting against your predictable blind spots. When done correctly, this approach can turn agonizing priority debates into clear, confident decisions within minutes. The secret weapon that makes this transformation possible operates on a deceptively simple principle: breaking complex decisions into smaller, more manageable components that your brain can evaluate accurately. Instead of trying to compare entire projects against each other, an overwhelming cognitive task, you evaluate each project across specific dimensions, then combine those evaluations into a single, meaningful score. Consider the first and most intuitive of these scoring frameworks, known by the acronym ICE. This elegant model asks you to rate each potential initiative across 3 critical dimensions, each scored on a simple scale from 1 to 10. The beauty lies not in the sophistication of the mathematics, but in how it forces you to think systematically about what really matters. The first dimension, impact, cuts straight to the heart of why you're considering the project in the first place. If this initiative succeeds beyond your wildest expectations, how dramatically will it move the needle on your most important objectives? A minor process improvement might score a 3 or 4, while a breakthrough innovation could earn a 9 or 10. This dimension ensures you're not just staying busy, but focusing on activities with genuine potential for transformation. The second dimension, confidence, introduces a crucial reality check that most people skip entirely. How certain are you that this initiative will actually deliver its promised impact? You might have a brilliant idea that could revolutionize your industry, but if you're only 30% confident it will work, that uncertainty needs to factor into your decision-making. This dimension protects against the common trap of pursuing exciting but unproven concepts while ignoring reliable, proven approaches. The third dimension, ease, acknowledges the practical constraints of your situation. Even the most impactful initiative becomes worthless if you lack the resources, skills, or time to execute it effectively. This isn't about choosing only easy projects. It's about honestly assessing the effort required and factoring that into your priority calculations. When you multiply these 3 scores together, something remarkable happens. Projects that initially seemed equally attractive suddenly reveal their true relative value. An initiative that scores high on impact but low on confidence or ease gets appropriately downgraded, while projects that offer solid returns with high probability of success rise to the top of your list. But ICE represents just the beginning of what's possible with smart scoring. For initiatives that involve reaching specific audiences or markets, you can upgrade to the RICE framework, which adds a 4th dimension, reach. This measures how many people will be affected by your initiative, adding crucial context for projects where scale matters as much as intensity of impact. For even more sophisticated priority decisions, particularly those involving multiple competing projects with complex interdependencies, there's an advanced framework called WSJF, Weighted Shortest Job First. This approach considers not just the value of completing a project, but the cost of delaying it, creating a more nuanced understanding of true priority. Projects that become less valuable over time or block other important initiatives naturally rise in the rankings. The real power of these scoring systems emerges when you visualize the results. Instead of abstract numbers, you can create heat maps that instantly reveal which initiatives deserve immediate attention, which should be scheduled for later, and which should be abandoned entirely. High-scoring projects cluster in one corner of your visual display, making the optimal choices obvious even to stakeholders who weren't involved in the original scoring process. Yet the greatest benefit of smart scoring isn't the final rankings, it's the quality of thinking the process demands. When you're forced to explicitly consider impact, confidence, ease, and reach for each option, you naturally uncover assumptions you hadn't examined, risks you hadn't considered, and opportunities you might have overlooked. The scoring process becomes a structured way to think more deeply about what you're trying to achieve and how to get there. This systematic approach also creates a powerful antidote to the politics and personal preferences that often derail priority decisions in team environments. When everyone uses the same framework and transparent criteria, discussions shift from subjective arguments to objective evaluation. Teams that adopt numeric scoring report dramatically higher agreement on priorities and faster decision-making cycles. However, even the most sophisticated scoring system can't account for one crucial factor that often determines success or failure: how well your chosen priorities fit together into a coherent, executable plan. You might have perfectly scored individual initiatives that create chaos when combined, or miss powerful synergies between projects that seem unrelated when evaluated in isolation. There's a structural principle that can transform your scored priorities into an elegant, gap-free architecture, one that ensures nothing important falls through the cracks while eliminating redundant effort. Chapter 5. Structure Map. You've scored your initiatives brilliantly, ranking them with mathematical precision, but something still feels off. As you scan your prioritized list, you notice troubling patterns. Two high-scoring projects that seem to address the same underlying problem, a critical area of your business that somehow isn't represented anywhere, and a nagging suspicion that you're missing something important. Despite all your careful analysis, your plan feels more like a collection of random activities than a coherent strategy. This frustration points to a fundamental flaw in how most people approach planning. They treat their priorities as independent items on a shopping list, failing to consider how these pieces fit together into a complete picture. It's like trying to build a house by purchasing the highest quality individual components without ensuring they actually connect into a functional structure. The solution requires thinking like an architect rather than a shopper. Architects don't just select beautiful materials, they organize those materials into blueprints that ensure every space serves a purpose. Nothing is duplicated unnecessarily, and the final structure addresses every functional requirement. Your priorities need the same architectural thinking, transforming scattered initiatives into an elegant, comprehensive plan. This architectural approach rests on a powerful principle borrowed from the world's top consulting firms, where clarity of thought can make the difference between $1 million recommendation and a career-ending mistake. The principle seems almost absurdly simple when first encountered, yet its implications are profound enough to revolutionize how you organize any complex challenge. The principle demands that every element in your plan be mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive, a mouthful of consultant speak that translates into surprisingly practical guidance. Mutually exclusive means no overlap. Each task, project, or initiative should have a clear, distinct purpose without duplicating effort elsewhere. Collectively exhaustive means complete coverage. Your plan should address every important aspect of your objectives without leaving critical gaps. Think of this like organizing a library. Books can't be simultaneously filed under multiple categories without creating confusion, yet the filing system must be comprehensive enough that every book has an obvious home. When you apply this same logic to your priorities, overlapping efforts become immediately visible, and missing pieces reveal themselves with startling clarity. The magic happens when you begin grouping your scored initiatives into distinct, non-overlapping categories. Instead of a flat list of 23 separate projects, you might discover that your priorities naturally cluster into 5 or 6 major themes. Suddenly, what seemed like overwhelming complexity becomes manageable structure, and the relationships between different initiatives become crystal clear. But creating these categories requires more than intuitive grouping. Each category must pass a rigorous test. Could a reasonable person look at any task and immediately know which category it belongs to without ambiguity or debate? If there's confusion about where something fits, your categories aren't distinct enough. This clarity isn't just academic. It prevents the costly rework and duplicated effort that plague poorly structured plans. Equally important is ensuring your categories collectively capture everything that matters. This is where many plans fail spectacularly. You might have brilliant categories for product development, marketing, and operations, but if customer service isn't represented anywhere, that gap will eventually create problems regardless of how well you execute everything else. Once you've established clear, comprehensive categories, you need a way to distinguish between different levels of commitment within each area. This is where a deceptively simple prioritization framework becomes invaluable. Known by the acronym MOSCOW, it forces you to explicitly label each initiative as must-have, should-have, could-have, or won't-have this cycle. The must-have designation carries special weight. These are the initiatives that define success or failure for your current planning period. If you accomplish nothing else, these items must be completed. The discipline required to keep this list short often reveals how much of what we consider essential is actually just preferred. Should-have initiatives are important but not critical. They significantly advance your objectives and should be pursued if resources allow, but their absence won't derail your core mission. This category often contains the high-impact, non-urgent activities that separate good performers from great ones. Could-have represents opportunities worth considering if everything else goes smoothly. These initiatives might offer attractive returns, but they're not essential for your current cycle's success. Having this category prevents good ideas from cluttering your core focus while ensuring they're not forgotten entirely. Perhaps most importantly, won't have makes explicit what you're choosing not to pursue. This isn't a failure category, it's a strategic decision to focus your limited resources on higher priorities. Making these decisions explicit prevents the gradual scope creep that undermines so many well-intentioned plans. The visual representation of your structure map transforms abstract planning into concrete clarity. Instead of overwhelming lists, you see distinct areas of focus, each with its own must-do items and optional enhancements. Color coding makes the structure instantly scannable. Critical items in red, important initiatives in yellow, optional projects in green. This structured approach reveals patterns that would otherwise remain hidden. You might discover that 80% of your must-have items cluster in just 2 categories, suggesting where your energy should be concentrated. Or you might notice that certain categories have no must-have items at all, raising questions about whether they deserve significant attention this cycle. The most common trap in building structure maps is category proliferation. The temptation to create highly specific, detailed categories feels productive but actually undermines clarity. 6 broad categories work better than 15 narrow ones, just as a simple filing system outperforms an elaborate one that nobody can remember how to use. Yet even the most elegantly structured plan faces a crucial challenge: the intricate web of dependencies that determine which initiatives must happen before others can begin. There's a hidden sequence buried within your structure map, a critical path that governs the timing of everything else. And identifying this path can mean the difference between smooth execution and costly delays. Chapter 6, Critical Path. Your structure map looks perfect. Every initiative neatly categorized, priorities clearly marked, nothing overlapping or missing. You're ready to dive into execution, but then reality hits. You discover that Project A can't start until Project B is finished, which depends on approval from Project C, which requires data from Project D. What seemed like parallel work streams suddenly reveal themselves as an intricate chain of dependencies, and your timeline just exploded from 3 months to 8. This scenario plays out in organizations everywhere, from small startups to massive corporations. Teams create beautiful plans that completely ignore the hidden sequences governing when things can actually happen. They treat their initiatives like independent tasks that can be tackled simultaneously, missing the invisible threads that connect everything together in a complex web of prerequisites and dependencies. The breakthrough comes when you shift from thinking about tasks as isolated items to understanding them as nodes in a network. Some tasks can indeed run in parallel, but others must follow specific sequences, and identifying these sequences reveals something remarkable. There's always one particular chain of activities that determines your total timeline, regardless of how efficiently you handle everything else. This chain is your critical path, and understanding it transforms how you approach execution. Instead of spreading your attention equally across all initiatives, you can focus your energy on the specific sequence that actually controls your success. It's like discovering that while you've been trying to optimize every component of a complex machine, there's one particular gear that governs the speed of the entire system. The concept might seem abstract until you consider a simple example. Imagine you're planning a product launch that requires market research, product development, marketing materials, and sales training. At first glance, these seem like 4 separate work streams that could happen simultaneously. But look closer. You can't finalize marketing materials until product development reveals key features, and you can't design effective sales training until the marketing positioning is clear. Suddenly, what appeared to be parallel work reveals itself as a sequential chain with specific timing requirements. The critical path is the longest sequence of dependent activities from start to finish. Every task on this path has zero slack. Any delay immediately pushes back your final completion date. Tasks not on the critical path have some flexibility, or float, meaning they can be delayed without affecting the overall timeline, as long as they don't delay so much that they become the new critical path. Identifying your critical path requires mapping out all the dependencies between your initiatives, then calculating which sequence takes the longest to complete. This isn't just an academic exercise. It reveals where delays will hurt most and where you can afford some flexibility. More importantly, it shows you exactly where to focus your problem-solving energy for maximum impact. But there's an even more powerful insight hidden within your critical path analysis. At any given moment, there's typically one specific bottleneck that's constraining the flow of your entire system. This constraint might be a person, a process, a piece of equipment, or even a decision that's waiting for approval. Whatever it is, this single bottleneck determines the speed at which your entire project moves forward. This insight comes from the theory of constraints, a powerful framework that recognizes a fundamental truth. Every system is limited by its weakest link. You can optimize everything else to perfection, but if you ignore the constraint, your overall performance won't improve. It's like having a high-performance sports car stuck behind a slow-moving truck on a single-lane road. The truck's speed determines how fast you can go, regardless of your car's capabilities. The strategic implication is profound. Instead of trying to improve everything simultaneously, you should focus intensely on identifying and addressing your current constraint. Once you elevate that bottleneck, a new constraint will emerge elsewhere in the system, and you can shift your attention there. This sequential approach to improvement generates far better results than scattered optimization efforts. Applying this thinking to your critical path means constantly asking, what's the single biggest bottleneck preventing faster progress right now? It might be waiting for a key decision maker to approve the next phase, or a team member who's overloaded with critical tasks, or an external vendor who's become a choke point. Whatever it is, that's where your problem-solving energy should be concentrated. The practical approach involves 3 strategic moves. First, exploit your current constraint by ensuring it's operating at maximum efficiency. Eliminate any waste, delays, or inefficiencies that are making the bottleneck worse than it needs to be. Second, subordinate everything else to support the constraint. Redirect resources, adjust schedules, and modify processes to ensure the bottleneck gets whatever it needs to keep moving. Third, if those steps aren't sufficient, elevate the constraint by adding resources, changing processes, or finding alternative approaches. This constraint-focused thinking prevents one of the most common planning mistakes: optimizing activities that don't actually limit your progress. You might spend weeks perfecting a process that has plenty of slack time while ignoring the real bottleneck that's quietly strangling your timeline. It's like polishing the engine of that sports car while the slow truck continues to set your pace. Your critical path analysis also reveals something crucial about risk management. Tasks on the critical path deserve extra attention and buffer time because any delay immediately impacts your final deadline. Tasks with significant float can absorb some delays without causing problems, making them lower risk from a timeline perspective. The visual representation of your critical path becomes a powerful communication tool. Instead of abstract discussions about priorities, you can show stakeholders exactly which activities control the timeline and why certain delays are more dangerous than others. This clarity often leads to better resource allocation and more realistic expectations about what's actually achievable. Yet, even the most carefully mapped critical path faces a persistent challenge: the daily reality of execution, where competing demands fragment your attention and urgent interruptions threaten to derail your carefully planned sequence. There's a time management approach that can protect your critical work from these inevitable disruptions while ensuring your most important activities actually happen when they're supposed to. Chapter 7: Focus Blocks. You've mapped your critical path with precision, identified your bottlenecks, and feel confident about your strategic direction. But when Monday morning arrives, your carefully crafted plan collides with reality. Urgent emails flood your inbox, colleagues drop by with quick questions, and somehow your most important project, the one that's supposed to drive everything else, gets pushed to tomorrow. Again. This frustrating gap between planning and execution reveals a fundamental truth about modern work. Good intentions are no match for the relentless tide of interruptions, requests, and reactive demands that fill every available moment. Your priorities might be crystal clear in your mind, but if they're not protected in your calendar, they'll remain perpetually postponed while less important but more urgent activities consume your days. The solution lies in recognizing that time is not just a resource to be managed, it's territory to be defended. Every moment you don't explicitly claim for your priorities becomes available for someone else's agenda. An empty calendar isn't a sign of flexibility, it's an invitation for interruption. The most successful professionals understand this instinctively, treating their calendars not as loose guidelines, but as sacred commitments to their most important work. This protective approach requires a fundamental shift in how you think about scheduling. Instead of hoping to find time for important projects, you must create time by deliberately blocking it out in advance. These aren't tentative placeholders that can be easily moved. They're non-negotiable appointments with your priorities, deserving the same respect you'd give to a crucial client meeting. The mechanics of effective time blocking go far beyond simply writing tasks on a calendar. The size and nature of each task should dictate the length and structure of its corresponding block. Complex creative work that requires deep thinking might need 3-hour uninterrupted windows, while routine administrative tasks can be batched into shorter, more flexible periods. Understanding these natural rhythms prevents the common mistake of trying to squeeze cognitively demanding work into inadequate time slots. Buffer blocks represent another crucial element often overlooked by time-blocking novices. No matter how precisely you estimate task durations, reality has a way of introducing complications, delays, and unexpected complexity. Building buffer time into your schedule isn't pessimistic. It's realistic. These buffers absorb the inevitable overflow, preventing one delayed task from creating a domino effect that destroys your entire day's structure. Yet, even the most carefully blocked calendar can become counterproductive if you're trying to juggle too many concurrent projects. This is where a visual management approach becomes invaluable, helping you see not just what you plan to do, but what you're actually capable of handling simultaneously. The solution comes from manufacturing, where managers discovered that limiting work in progress dramatically improves both quality and speed of completion. The principle seems counterintuitive at first. Doing fewer things simultaneously should make you slower, not faster. But the reality is more nuanced. When you spread your attention across too many concurrent projects, each one moves more slowly, quality suffers, and the cognitive overhead of constant task switching creates hidden inefficiencies. A simple visual system can make these dynamics immediately apparent. Imagine 3 columns on a board or screen: to do, doing, and done. Every task or project gets represented by a card that moves from left to right as work progresses. The magic happens when you impose strict limits on how many cards can occupy the middle column simultaneously. These work-in-progress limits force uncomfortable but valuable decisions. When your doing column is full and a new urgent project appears, you can't simply add it to your workload. Instead, you must either reject the new work or consciously decide to pause something already in progress. This visibility transforms abstract capacity discussions into concrete choices about trade-offs and priorities. The visual feedback becomes even more powerful when you start tracking how long tasks spend in each column. You might discover that projects sit in your doing column for weeks without meaningful progress, revealing hidden bottlenecks in your workflow. Or you might notice that certain types of tasks consistently take longer than expected, helping you make more realistic time estimates in the future. This flow-focused approach reveals patterns that traditional planning methods miss entirely. You might find that your most important projects get started quickly but then stall in the middle phases, suggesting that your initiation process is efficient but your follow-through needs work. Or you might discover that you're excellent at completing individual tasks but struggle with projects that require sustained effort over multiple weeks. The combination of time blocking and work-in-progress limits creates a powerful protection system for your priorities. Your calendar guards against external interruptions, while your visual workflow prevents internal overcommitment. Together, they ensure that your most important work gets both the time and attention it deserves. But this protective approach requires discipline and the courage to say no to requests that don't align with your blocked priorities. When someone asks for an immediate meeting during your blocked deep work time, you need alternative times to offer rather than simply capitulating. When a new project appears that would exceed your work-in-progress limits, you need clear criteria for deciding what gets paused or declined. The reflection process becomes crucial for continuous improvement. Each day, examine which blocks got hijacked and why. Was it a genuine emergency that justified the interruption, or simply a failure to protect your boundaries? Did you overestimate what could be accomplished in a particular time block, or were there external factors you couldn't have anticipated? These insights help you refine both your time blocking strategy and your work-in-progress management. You might discover that certain types of blocks are more vulnerable to interruption, suggesting they need stronger protection or different timing. Or you might find that your work-in-progress limits are either too restrictive or too permissive for your actual capacity. Yet even the most sophisticated focus protection system faces a fundamental challenge. The world keeps changing around you, and static plans quickly become obsolete. There's a dynamic approach to maintaining relevance and responsiveness that can keep your carefully constructed system aligned with evolving realities. One that embraces change as a source of intelligence rather than a threat to your plans. Chapter 8: Fast Loops. Your focus blocks are protecting your priorities beautifully. Your calendar reflects your true commitments, and you're making steady progress on your critical path. But 3 weeks into execution, you notice something troubling. The market conditions that shaped your original plan have shifted, a key assumption about customer behavior has proven wrong, and a competitor just launched something that changes everything. Your carefully crafted strategy is still logically sound, but it's solving yesterday's problems instead of today's realities. This scenario illustrates one of the most dangerous traps in strategic planning: the illusion that good analysis can predict and control future outcomes. We invest enormous energy creating detailed plans based on our best understanding of current conditions, then cling to those plans even as evidence accumulates that our assumptions were incomplete or incorrect. The result is often months of disciplined execution in pursuit of objectives that are no longer relevant or achievable. The solution isn't better prediction, it's better adaptation. Instead of trying to anticipate every possible change, you need systems that can detect shifts quickly and respond intelligently. This requires embracing a fundamental paradox. The faster you can cycle through small experiments and course corrections, the more likely you are to achieve your larger strategic objectives. This adaptive approach draws inspiration from an unlikely source: fighter pilot training, where split-second decisions determine survival. Combat pilots operate in environments of extreme uncertainty, where conditions change rapidly and incomplete information is the norm. They've developed a decision-making framework that maximizes speed and accuracy under pressure, and this same framework can revolutionize how you manage your professional priorities. The framework operates as a continuous cycle with 4 distinct phases, each designed to gather intelligence and refine your approach based on real-world feedback. The first phase involves systematic observation, not passive waiting for information to arrive, but active scanning for signals that might indicate changing conditions. This isn't about consuming more news or checking more metrics. It's about identifying the specific indicators that would suggest your current approach needs adjustment. The second phase requires honest orientation, updating your mental model of the situation based on what you've observed. This is often the most challenging step because it demands acknowledging when your previous assumptions were wrong. The natural tendency is to explain away contradictory evidence or dismiss it as temporary noise, but effective adaptation requires genuine intellectual humility about the limits of your initial analysis. The third phase focuses on decision-making that balances speed with quality. You can't wait for perfect information, but you also can't make random changes based on every fluctuation in your environment. The key is developing clear criteria for when course corrections are warranted and what types of adjustments are most likely to improve your position. The fourth phase emphasizes action through small, reversible experiments rather than large, irreversible commitments. Instead of betting everything on a single approach, you test new directions with limited resources and time commitments, gathering data about their effectiveness before scaling up successful innovations or abandoning failed experiments. This experimental mindset transforms how you think about planning itself. Rather than creating comprehensive blueprints that attempt to specify every detail in advance, you develop what might be called minimum viable plans, the smallest possible version of your strategy that can generate meaningful learning about what works and what doesn't. A minimum viable plan identifies the core hypothesis underlying your approach and designs the simplest possible test to validate or refute that hypothesis. If you believe a new marketing channel will drive customer acquisition, you don't immediately commit your entire budget to that channel. Instead, you run a small-scale experiment that can provide clear evidence about the channel's effectiveness with minimal risk and resource commitment. This approach requires disciplined thinking about what constitutes meaningful feedback. Not all data is equally valuable for strategic decision-making. You need to identify the specific metrics and qualitative indicators that would genuinely change your approach if they moved in unexpected directions. These become your feedback capture grid, a focused set of measurements that can trigger course corrections when necessary. The timing of these feedback loops becomes crucial for maintaining both responsiveness and stability. Daily microloops help you stay connected to immediate operational realities and make tactical adjustments as needed. Weekly macro loops provide space for more strategic reflection about whether your overall direction remains sound or needs fundamental revision. The daily rhythm involves quick check-ins with your key metrics and immediate environment. Are you making expected progress on critical tasks? Have any new constraints or opportunities emerged? Do any of your current assumptions seem questionable based on recent evidence? These brief assessments help you catch small problems before they become large ones. The weekly rhythm allows for deeper analysis of patterns and trends that might not be visible in daily fluctuations. Are your experiments generating the insights you expected? Do you need to adjust your hypotheses based on accumulated evidence? Should you double down on successful approaches or pivot toward more promising alternatives? This adaptive approach requires careful balance between responsiveness and consistency. Too much change creates chaos and prevents you from gathering meaningful data about any single approach. Too little change leaves you vulnerable to shifting conditions and missed opportunities. The key is developing clear criteria for when adaptation is warranted versus when persistence is more appropriate. The most common pitfall is analysis paralysis. spending so much time observing and orienting that you never get to decisive action. The framework is designed for speed, not perfection. Better to make quick decisions based on incomplete information and adjust rapidly than to delay action while seeking certainty that will never arrive. Equally dangerous is the opposite extreme, making changes without learning from them. Each experiment should generate specific insights that inform future decisions. Random activity disguised as adaptation wastes resources and creates confusion without advancing your strategic position. Yet even the most sophisticated adaptive system faces a final challenge: translating all these insights, experiments, and course corrections into a coherent, actionable plan that everyone can understand and execute. There's one ultimate integration step that can weave together everything you've learned into a single, powerful document, a master key that unlocks the full potential of your strategic thinking. Chapter 9, one-pager. You've mastered 8 powerful frameworks, each one transforming a different aspect of how you approach priorities and decisions. Your clarity lens has sharpened your objectives, your chaos filter has tamed the mental noise, and your fast loops are keeping everything adaptive and responsive. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Having 8 separate tools can create its own form of complexity. You find yourself jumping between different systems, trying to remember which framework applies to which situation, and struggling to see how all the pieces fit together into a coherent whole. What you need now isn't another tool. It's a way to synthesize everything you've learned into a single, elegant interface. Imagine having all your strategic thinking, all your priorities, all your timing, and all your feedback loops visible in one place. Not scattered across multiple apps, documents, and systems, but integrated into a unified command center that tells you everything you need to know with a single glance. This integration challenge has frustrated professionals for decades. They accumulate powerful methodologies and sophisticated frameworks, but struggle to weave them together into something practical and usable. The result is often tool fatigue, abandoning effective systems because managing them becomes more work than the value they provide. What's needed is a master document that serves as the gravitational center for all your strategic thinking. The solution lies in recognizing that the human brain processes visual information far more efficiently than text-based lists or abstract concepts. A well-designed visual can communicate complex relationships, priorities, and sequences in ways that pages of written explanation cannot match. But this isn't about creating pretty graphics. It's about designing a functional interface that makes your strategic thinking instantly accessible and actionable. The foundation of this visual integration starts with your North Star objective, prominently displayed at the top of your page like a banner that reminds you why everything else matters. This isn't decorative, it's functional. Every time you glance at your page, you're reinforced with your ultimate destination, ensuring that tactical decisions remain anchored to strategic purpose. Below this banner, your priorities arrange themselves in a grid that immediately reveals what deserves attention and what can wait. The highest scoring initiatives from your ScoreSmart analysis occupy the most prominent positions, while lower priority items are visually de-emphasized without disappearing entirely. Color coding makes the priority levels instantly recognizable. Critical items in bold red, important initiatives in amber, optional projects in muted green. The timeline dimension adds crucial context about when things need to happen. Instead of abstract due dates, you see swim lanes that show how different initiatives flow through time, revealing overlaps, dependencies, and potential conflicts. Your critical path becomes immediately visible as the sequence that determines your overall timeline, while other activities show their flexibility and buffer time. Your focus blocks integrate seamlessly into this timeline view, showing not just what needs to happen, but when you've committed calendar time to make it happen. The visual connection between priorities and protected time prevents the common disconnect between planning and execution. If something is truly important, it should be visible both in your priority grid and in your time allocation. The feedback loops from your adaptive system appear as indicators that show which assumptions are being tested, which metrics are being tracked, and when course corrections might be needed. These aren't overwhelming details. They're subtle visual cues that remind you to stay connected to changing realities rather than blindly following static plans. The design principles that make this integration work are deceptively simple but crucial for effectiveness. Information density must be balanced against readability. You want everything important visible without creating visual chaos. The page should be scannable in 30 seconds, but detailed enough to guide daily decisions. Think of it as the dashboard of a high-performance vehicle. Essential information at a glance, with deeper details available when needed. Building your first one-pager requires importing elements from all your previous frameworks, but the magic happens in how you arrange and connect them. Your scored priorities become positioned elements, your structured categories become visual sections, your critical path becomes a highlighted flow, and your time blocks become calendar overlays. The result is greater than the sum of its parts, a unified view that reveals patterns and relationships invisible when the components were separate. The daily ritual of engaging with your one-pager transforms it from a static document into a living system. Each morning, a quick scan tells you what deserves focus today, which deadlines are approaching, and whether any course corrections are needed. This isn't about rigid adherence to predetermined plans. It's about maintaining strategic awareness while staying flexible to emerging opportunities and challenges. The end-of-day review becomes equally valuable, marking completed items, noting unexpected developments, and identifying what needs adjustment for tomorrow. These micro-updates keep your page current and relevant, preventing the staleness that kills so many planning systems. Weekly reviews provide space for more significant updates, rescoring priorities based on new information, adjusting timelines based on actual progress, and incorporating insights from your feedback loops. Monthly reviews allow for even deeper reflection, potentially updating your North Star objective or restructuring major initiatives based on accumulated learning. The true test of your one-pager's effectiveness is whether someone unfamiliar with your work could understand your strategic direction within 60 seconds of looking at it. If the page requires extensive explanation, it's too complex. If it doesn't capture the essence of your priorities and approach, it's too simple. The sweet spot is immediate comprehension of what you're trying to achieve and how you plan to get there. The most common failure mode is overcrowding, trying to fit every detail onto the page until it becomes unreadable. Remember that this is a strategic overview, not a comprehensive project plan. The goal is clarity about direction and priorities, not exhaustive documentation of every task and subtask. Equally dangerous is letting the page become stale. A one-pager that doesn't reflect current realities is worse than no page at all because it creates false confidence and outdated assumptions. The page must evolve as your understanding deepens and circumstances change. When done correctly, your one-pager becomes something remarkable, an external manifestation of your strategic thinking that's more powerful than any single framework you've learned. It's your North Star made visible, your priorities made concrete, your timing made explicit, and your adaptability made systematic. It transforms the chaos of modern work into a clear, actionable plan that fits on a single page. But here's the ultimate payoff that makes everything worthwhile. Once you've mastered the ability to distill complex strategic thinking into a single, powerful page, you've developed a meta skill that transcends any specific job, industry, or challenge. Whether you're planning a career transition, launching a business, managing a team, or pursuing personal goals, you now have a repeatable process for turning overwhelming complexity into elegant clarity. You've learned to see through the noise to what truly matters, to organize chaos into structure, to sequence actions for maximum impact, and to adapt intelligently as conditions change. These aren't just productivity techniques, they're thinking tools that compound over time, making you more effective with every challenge you face. The one-pager in front of you isn't just a planning document, it's proof that you can master complexity without being overwhelmed by it. You can make better decisions faster, execute with greater focus, and adapt more intelligently than ever before. In a world where the ability to think clearly and act decisively determines success, you now have an unfair advantage that will serve you for the rest of your career. Your chaos has become clarity. Your scattered priorities have become focused action. Your reactive firefighting has become proactive strategy. And it all fits on a single page that travels with you wherever your ambitions take you. But here's what most high achievers discover once they've mastered strategic clarity. Having the perfect plan means nothing if your brain is constantly hijacked by digital distractions, social media dopamine hits, and the endless, shallow stimulation that makes deep work feel impossibly difficult. You might know exactly what deserves your focus, but if your neural pathways are wired to crave quick rewards over sustained effort, even the most elegant one-pager becomes just another document you'll glance at while your attention fragments across a dozen apps and notifications. There's a hidden neurochemical battle happening in your brain right now that determines whether you'll actually execute on your priorities or remain trapped in cycles of distraction and procrastination. The solution lies in rewiring your dopamine system to make deep work irresistibly rewarding rather than painfully boring. And you'll discover exactly how to accomplish this transformation in the audiobook Dopamine Detox. Trick your brain to crave deep work every day. Tap the center of the video now to continue your transformation journey.